Boxing Ego here. If you like this video, make sure you hit the like button and also subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon on the top of your screen to get notified when the latest new content drops. 1. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. Now, I just read a great article with the Los Angeles Times by Lance Pugmire. It's an interview with Oscar De La Hoya of Golden Boy, former fighter, manages the career of Canelo Alvarez. I have linked in the description in case you want to read the full article in its entirety. And De La Hoya had interesting things to say. I'm going to pull a quote and then give my thoughts on the situation. Now, what De La Hoya told Lance, obviously they're referring to Golovkin's most recent performance, which was a big one. People wanted to see how he would do and fare against a true middleweight with momentum, an amateur background, a height size advantage, has certified power of his own, and pretty much the biggest test. Team Triple G admitted that Jacobs was the biggest test of their career, and he passed. I don't think it was a unanimous decision personally. Even if you gave him the fight, I don't see how he won cleanly on 3 judges' scorecards, because I was there live, and it was a back and forth fight, and it was close, but I had Jacobs winning. However, after De La Hoya seen the fight, he had some things to say. So this is a quote from De La Hoya. He says, "Not that Gennady Golovkin's value went down. I just feel that given today's market, I really feel that Triple G's side has to be more than fair to make this fight. I actually believe the percentages of making this fight have decreased. It all depends on the negotiations, and we'll continue talks. But now, obviously, we clearly know who the A side is. That's obviously Canelo. So I'm going to instruct Golden Boy President Eric Gomez to continue talks, and hopefully it can get done. But I strongly feel Canelo is the obvious A side, and there's no doubt about it." That's from Oscar De La Hoya. Now, see, what I notice in boxing is a lot of fanboyism, a lot of favoritism. It's good to have a favorite fighter, like a certain style, but you guys got to keep it real. And that's what I strive to do. I've told you on many occasions, as far as the Canelo Triple G, I'm really done with the blame game and pointing fingers. I just, as a fan and a follower of boxing, I just really want to see it. So I don't really even care. It's like starting to become almost an irritant that boxing fans have to show, show their ass, and it's like pulling teeth to get classic fights, or what have the potential to be classic fights made, you know what I mean? So that's just my standpoint on it. It's not even about the blame game. I do think Team Canelo, certain things they've done have been inconsistent. And that's a fact, and I can break them down, and I have in videos. But then I also feel that for Golovkin's side too. Certain statements that they put out to public, oh, Canelo, he's a businessman. He's not a boxer, he's a businessman. He's fighting Amir Khan, a welterweight, ha 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 ha. In your very next fight, it couldn't get any more painstakingly obvious. Your very next fight, you fight a welterweight. And I don't care about the Chris Eubank situation. If you couldn't find a formidable guy in your category, in your middleweight division, then oh well, who cares? Lose the September date. I mean, how many times have we had fights postponed that we wanted to see anyway? So it wouldn't have been, I wanted to see Golovkin versus Eubank, but if you can't get an actual middleweight, you know what I mean? Maybe you have to give up that date, because you didn't really. The only benefit for the Kell Brook Golovkin fight to me was Golovkin. You know what I mean? Or Golovkin fans, like he got another knockout, right? Golovkin got a career high payday, I believe $5 million, but it didn't benefit me as a boxing fan because I didn't give him credit for that. You know what I mean? Same thing with Canelo Khan. Like, how can these guys aren't even in your weight class, nor have they emerged as supreme in the previous weight class. Meaning, Amir Khan didn't prove he was by far the best welterweight. He only fought 3 people. And his last performance was a year before the Canelo fight, and it was against Chris Algieri, and he didn't look particularly good. I think his best performance would either be Collazo or Devin Alexander, maybe even Devin Alexander, because that was one-sided and he just came out firing. But either way, Devin Alexander wasn't the champion, and that was a good win, good name, but that doesn't prove that you're the best welterweight, right? Especially when you have Garcia Thurmans and fights that are more meaningful. Same thing with Kell Brook. He fought Sean Porter and then got stabbed, and he really started fighting a bunch of mandatories and or fights that didn't show me nothing. You know what I mean? When they said he was gonna fight Brandon Rios or Diego Chavez, Kell Brook, I was excited. I was happy because at least those guys, I know what Rios does. I know how he fights. So see if Kell Brook, how he boxes a guy with relentless pressure and who's never really been stopped. I mean, he got stopped versus Tim Bradley, but he's never been like flatline stopped. You know what I mean? Diego Chavez can scrap. He always comes to, he gives people, I had him beating Brandon Rios, to be honest, before the disqualification. He gave Tim Bradley a tough fight that I think it ended in a draw. He was challenging Keith Thurman, so that would have showed me something. Jojo Dan, and then fighting a guy that Jojo Dan beat twice, Kevin Bezier and Frankie Gavin, that doesn't show me nothing. So, bottom line, the Kell Brook Golovkin situation is in the same vein. It doesn't really prove nothing. You were much bigger. The guy didn't have a chance to acclimate. He's a good fighter, but he didn't even prove he was the best welterweight. Now he's fighting a fight that I really want to see, because that will help prove his welterweight pedigree by beating Errol Spence Jr. if he can do it, right? So, I mean, that's just the reality of it. It's like a lot of guys point the finger when someone else, oh, Floyd Mayweather, you see him when Floyd was in the throne. Oh, you see him, look at his A-side demands, and he wants this, and he doesn't want Maidana to use these gloves. And then they do the same thing, if worse. You know what I mean? If not worse. Because I don't recall a time where Floyd Mayweather, a lot of his wins, even as Money Mayweather, do the research, a lot of the guys he fought were either undefeated and or coming off of their strongest performances and the most world-renowned wins. You know what I mean? Like Victor Ortiz, Canelo, guys like Robert Guerrero had to beat up Berto's eyes and people were paying attention to him, and he was the mandatory interim champion, so you have to acknowledge that fight. But people say that, you know what I mean, say Floyd did this and they do worse. I don't remember a time where Floyd pulled somebody up 2 weight classes who was not the man. And I know, see, this you can't do this to me. Some people are gonna be, oh, you're wrong, Ego, Juan Manuel Marquez. But guess what? That is not the same, because as I mentioned, Marquez had just beat Juan Diaz and was considered the best lightweight in the world. Watch the post-fight interview. He was the best lightweight. There was nothing else for him to prove at that point, at that division. Max Kellerman even said it post-fight. He says, Marquez, I mean, you're without a shadow of a doubt the best lightweight, and you clean house. There's nothing else for you here. What are your plans? Marquez specifically replied, I wanted to rematch with Pacquiao, but after giving him a tough fight, he doesn't want it. And since he's considered the best and Floyd Mayweather is retired, I'd like to call Floyd Mayweather out of retirement, basically. I want to fight Floyd Mayweather, because if I can't get Pacquiao, then I want to fight the other guy who was, before he retired, considered the best pound for pound. I just want to fight the best. I want to move up and fight Floyd Mayweather. So that's completely different. The Kell Brook and Golovkin situation didn't materialize like that. And again, the biggest thing is Kell Brook was not considered, he was considered skilled, but he wasn't considered the best welterweight, because you're not the best welterweight just beating Sean Porter, because Keith Thurman just did that too, right? He just beat Sean Porter and then beat Danny Garcia. You know what I mean? So no, it doesn't work like that. I want to know what you guys think about Oscar De La Hoya's comments about the likelihood of this fight might actually decrease. And I just did this on Monday Mail Day. Someone asked me this question. I gave it 65%. It doesn't mean that it can't happen. Doesn't mean that it won't happen. But, I mean, if one of the side's founders and promoters is saying the chances of this fight, the percentages of this fight happening decreased, then I don't know. That's not necessarily a good sign that it will happen. So I don't know. I learned in boxing not to get your hopes up with these fights and do too much, because a lot of times it doesn't pan out. I will say though, after seeing the Golovkin versus Jacobs performance, again, a lot of people get favoritism and they like a guy. Oh, bullshit, Oscar, you said this before. But in talking about what he's saying currently, which I've reported on this particular video, I do think that De La Hoya brings up a point. I don't think the performance Golovkin gave, it wasn't horrible. I don't think he looked horrific, but based on who he's supposed to be, most people expected more. Thus is why he was the 8-1 favorite or whatever he was versus Danny Jacobs. And I've been doing this too long. Every single video from first look to just videos talking about Ego Weight Watchers, 30-day weigh-ins. Every time I mention this fight, majority of the comments were picking Golovkin via blowout, right? Golovkin via stoppage, knockout. Even his trainer, Abel Sanchez, said, "Oh yeah, these are our toughest tests, but we'll get him out of there. We'll knock him out," right? And then Abel now is saying, "Oh, Danny Jacobs made me eat my words," and Golovkin's like, "Oh yeah, hey, no, Jacobs, he's my toughest fight. He's my favorite," right? So without a doubt, even if you had Golovkin winning, Jacobs did play spoiler in the sense of most people didn't even give him that chance to even go to the distance. All they were talking about was his chin. He was chinny. Dimitri Pirog. He's definitely Sergio Mora. So I mean, you notice I didn't bring that up when I was talking my pre-fight stuff. I never even was mentioning that. I would like in the same fashion. I wasn't like Sergio Mora. If you really break down boxing, you analyze boxing, you'll know what the Sergio Mora shit was. And what's worse is like, look, people always give Pacquiao this status, like he's just invincible. Pacquiao, when he did that, obviously, granted he was in there with the bigger puncher, but he was in there with Marquez in the fourth fight. When he got reckless, he actually didn't just get knocked down, he face planted and got knocked out. So, I mean, Jacobs is the Sergio Mora situation. I told you guys that. I've said it on record. That was overstated. He got knocked down. He was off balance. He thought he had his man hurt, and he was reckless. And if you put all your boxing to the side, then that can happen, because that's what happened. He was just like, oh, he didn't care how he came in. He wasn't trying to jab. He was just trying to get this man out of there. And the rematch showed you that, because now he knew he got knocked down. He knew there was quote-unquote controversy because of Moore was claiming he lost because of his ankle or whatever, and because he got hurt in the fall and he was unable to continue. So Jacobs came correct, boxed him, and knocked him down a gang of times, and you know what I mean, it was the rest was history. So but bottom line is, people didn't give Jacobs a shot. I was probably like one of the only people with a voice that was publicly giving Jacobs a shot. You know what I mean? Which is why Jacobs gave me and the Boxing Ego brand that kudos at his media day. He says, "I just want to thank you for being fair, brother." He said a lot of people aren't giving. I mean, the video's up. You guys can go watch it. So I agree with De La Hoya in the sense of that performance. It made Golovkin look more human. That's what it is. Even if you had him winning, it made him look more human. It took away some of his mystique. And if you can't see that, then you're probably just a radical fanboy, so there's no reason to even talk to you anyway. But it did, because he was this knockout machine. Jacobs was supposed to be this chinny one, and paper chin and all glass chin, jaw, whatever you guys want to say. He was supposed to be that, and he became the first person in 23 consecutive fights to go the distance with him. So, and not even that, a lot of people thought he won, including myself, including Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., including a ton of people. I just seen a bunch of interviews and different people like Gerald Big Baby Miller, professional fighters, boxing pages, like popular boxing pages on Instagram. Just a ton of people are talking about it still. Shout out to my dude LL Cool J Queens, know what I mean? Sweetest apple pie, baby. He commented on my video, and he said he had Jacobs winning. You could say, oh, it's because he's from New York, it's a New York thing, whatever. He's publicly stating that he had Jacobs winning. And LL said, for the record, on my page, he said, for the record, I like Gennady Golovkin. I just had Jacobs winning. See, there's a lot of people like LL, like myself, who are able to separate who you like from the facts. You know what I mean? What you actually seen. I don't care how much you like Golovkin or whoever, or Canelo. I mean, like Canelo versus Mayweather. There's no way that fight was a draw. You could have Canelo posters, you could have a Canelo tattoo. But if you really want, that's embarrassing that you would even, like people like CJ Ross, that you would even argue that the Mayweather-Canelo fight was a draw, knowing you didn't see that. You know what I'm saying? You're reaching. You're trying to force something that's not there. So I do agree with De La Hoya in the sense of this performance. It's just there for Golovkin. It's not like it grew his stock. You know what I mean? People were like, oh, okay, he has a good name, but I'm pretty sure even him, he even looked disappointed, to be honest. I was there, right? He looked kind of disappointed because I think he really expected Jacobs to go easier. You know what I mean? So that's the reality of it. That's really what I've seen. And even though he won the fight, a lot of people are saying the opposite. People are calling him triple gift and all kinds of crazy stuff. So I'm pretty sure he wanted to win, but he wanted to win more emphatically. And De La Hoya is right. Now, as far as this $15 million, again, I see the side of Golovkin. Like, what if this fight goes on to do this crazy numbers or whatever? And why are we stuck with this flat rate instead of getting a percentage? So I don't really understand that. However, the actual denomination of currency, the actual number, to me, is more than fair. Golovkin just got under 3 million, like 2.75 million, to fight Jacobs, which was a certified threat. I thought Jacobs beat him. A lot of people did, but he got the win. But nonetheless, it was a threat, and it was a number 2 person in his division, and he got under 3 million. His career high payday is Kell Brook. He had to go to the UK to do that fight, and he got, I believe, 5 million. So you add that up, his last 2 fights have been probably his biggest purses, because before that he was getting $1 million change, $1.5 million, right? So you add up his last 2 highest grossing fights, and it's not even half of what Golden Boy offered him. Plus, they're still willing to offer him a small percentage of the pay-per-view profits. So that doesn't make sense to me. $5 million for Kell Brook. Let's just round up to $3 million, even though he didn't get $3 million and has to pay his team and all that. But $3 million for Danny Jacobs, even though it was 2.75, that's $8 million. What's half of 15, right? 7.5. And I rounded up too, you know what I'm saying? So it's like double your last 2 biggest paydays in your last 2 fights. So how's 15 mil not good enough? You know what I mean? Like, plus some pay-per-view revenue. And then coming off of that performance, that's not like if you would your biggest test, this is the test that was going to make or break you, improve. You can't say Golovkin looked at his best, because at his best he's knocking everybody out, right? So off of that performance, I don't see how you think your worth is going to go up. You know what I mean? But that's just me. Let me know what you guys think. 15 million, is it fair? Is it unfair? De La Hoya is right. Canelo's the A side, period. The David Lemieux fight had more attendance than the Jacobs fight. I mean, this fight still did good, and the crowd they got up for Golovkin at the weigh-in, and he had a good presence there, but it was under the attendance, so you didn't even beat and it was your biggest fight, and it did 19,000 seats, which is good. That's really good, but you're supposed to, I guess, up the ante. You know what I mean? Like, if Floyd Mayweather fights Robert Guerrero, and then he fights Canelo, which is a bigger threat, more people thought it was a bigger threat, guess what? The numbers dramatically inclined, period. And those fights happened the same year. So why is Golovkin versus David Lemieux have better attendance than Danny Jacobs fight? You know what I mean? That's kind of weird. It usually, you know what I'm saying? Usually if you were the A side, I feel like that number would keep growing, especially as your competitions grow. Maybe like Canelo, I can't, obviously if he fights Liam Smith, the numbers aren't going to be great, but if given the right competition, if your A side and your star power has grown, usually your numbers grow too, period. Unless you're not fighting who you're supposed to be fighting. But this was a fight. Golovkin-Jacobs was a fight he was supposed to be fighting. A good fight. And I'm waiting on the pay-per-view numbers to see how many buys it did, but hopefully it did well. Let me know what you think of Oscar De La Hoya. That is my assessment. Drop it in the comment section. Link in the description to the Los Angeles Times interview and article with Oscar De La Hoya. Make sure you share the video, like the video as always. Hate, comment, and subscribe. Till next video is Ego signing off. So if you enjoyed this video and want more content like this on the channel, you can show your appreciation by going to the PayPal donate button or the YouTube support button. And you can donate any amount that you feel is equivalent to the value of this video. Much more to come. Thank you guys for your support. Boxing Ego, the future of boxing.